Hello there, lovely people. This is Ashley sending my love from whatever reality I'm wandering in today to you in whatever reality you happen to find yourself in. Now, this video really is something that I've been thinking. I mean, I've tackled it in the past, kind of, with the one I made about Christians, with it not being the Mandela Effect is not a reason to be Islamophobic, and it's not just a Christian thing. But the thing that this is about, this actual video is about, is the unaffected with their critique, their studying of the Mandela Effect. My message is stop it. Just stop it, please, because for those of us who are actually affected, it's very distressing, as I'm sure that anybody that's watching this that is affected really understands this. And the reason why I'm making this video today is because I'm absolutely sick to death of these videos popping up on my YouTube news feed. And, you know, it's from pastors that are saying that we're following a cult, that we want to belong to something, you know, that they've studied the Bible, we haven't, that we are somehow working for Satan. And they haven't, you know, and they always cite this Fiona Broome woman, right? All of them, all cite this Fiona Broome woman as being an occult woman, a psychic, that kind of thing, and that we are just some kind of cult following her. That's just not true. She just happened to name it. And believe me, I don't know anybody really that I've spoken to that really likes it being called the Mandela Effect, but it is now, so that's what we're sticking with, even though it's actually more like reality changing and sliding. We're shifting through realities. And in fact, as I've discussed before, we're not even sharing the same reality at the same time anymore. And the thing is that, I mean, even when they're seeing residual evidence and in the logo changes, in things like the, you know, things like the movie titles and movie lines, all popular ones that we all know, having changed, they can see this online. Residual evidence is there for them to find. And even with the Bible thing, you know, people don't just go, oh, it's changed. We find residual evidence to show them that. And yet they're still coming out with things like, you know, we're following the cult of Fiona Broome. Well, and also, another thing is that they always cite straight away the Mandela Effect. And I'm sick of people saying that it started because everybody knew that Mandela had died in the 80s or the 90s. Well, that just isn't true, because it isn't true. We come from a broad spectrum where, I mean, at the time, I remember seeing people on Facebook, seeing posts about how they thought Mandela had died in prison in the 90s. And I was thinking, are you mad? How can anybody think that he died in the 90s? So even then, if you're going to get that basic thing wrong, you have no right speaking about it. I've seen physicists. Now, really, physicists should be the ones that are jumping up and down for joy about this, but they're not. They're busy, you know, giving their expert opinion on how we are just misremembering. We're not misremembering, and we have plenty of evidence to show this. So I am really sick to death of these, and some of these people are really quite influential. You know, when people are listening to them and they think, oh yeah, these people that are Mandela affected, they're just part of a cult, or we're misremembering, or any number of different things that we're just mental. When if you're not Mandela affected, actually being affected by it, you have no idea what it actually feels like, how awful it is. And unfortunately, most of these people that are busy coming out with videos about them having studied the Mandela Effect and then poo-pooing it, I've not seen a single one go, oh, actually, they've got a point, because some of them are even showing residual evidence and still poo-pooing it. You know, if you aren't affected, at least have an open mind and try and look at the people that are affected and listen to our stories. It's not just about residual evidence, is it? It's quite, about memory losses, about misremembering. It's about our reality changing. So please, if you're not affected and you're thinking, I'm going to have a look at this Mandela Effect, and then I'm going to knock the shit out of it, call them all lunatics, and state that we're all part of a cult, then don't bother, please, because you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. None. Not a single jot of idea have you got. So there are plenty of different channels out there all speaking about it. Some from different aspects, but basically we're all saying the same sort of thing. We're sharing our memories, residual evidence. There's lots of residual evidence out there. And if you're actually going to make actual videos about it, at least take on board what we're saying. At least take on board what we're saying. It's a phenomena that none of us understands. And yet these people that are experts are busy understanding it. It's all just us misremembering. Let's ignore all the residual evidence. Let's ignore it all. Well, no, we can't ignore the residual evidence because to us, residual evidence to us, it's for our own purpose. It isn't to prove to you. We don't give a shit about what you think, quite frankly, because you're talking nonsense, because you're not even prepared to actually research it properly by going to look at people's individual stories. You know, you're not, and never mind the people that are there are lots of channels out there that are putting up Mandela Effect residue. You know, so it's easy to find. So if you really want to study the Mandela Effect and you're not affected, go in with an open mind and actually listen to the things that we're saying, look at the residual evidence and stop being fools. Stop it. It's upsetting to those of us that are. It's the most confusing, awful thing that's ever happened to me, and most people feel the same. Even though we seem to be sounding quite calm about things, it doesn't mean that we are. So if you're a born-again Christian and you think that or a pastor and you think that you've studied the Bible more than anybody else and therefore we're just following a cult, you're wrong. If you're a physicist and you think that we're all just remembering because you know so much better than we do, you're wrong. If you think that because you are some kind of esoterical genius with thousands of followers, that you know about what's going on with the Mandela Effect and you're not actually affected, you don't. So every single thing I've ever seen any of you say has been completely and utterly wrong. You haven't listened to anybody that's actually Mandela affected. Not properly, because if you did, you'd be intrigued. I know if I wasn't affected, I'd be intrigued. I'd want to know. I'd look at the residual evidence. I'd look at it and I'd say, right, they've got something. There's something going on here. Whether I actually saw it or not, that's what I don't understand. So if you're not affected, please stop telling other people what being Mandela affected is about, because you don't know. And not one of you have got it right since. And quite frankly, it's not helping any of us that actually are Mandela affected. You know, when you're influencing people that believe what you're saying and you're not even affected. So, you know, have the common decency, if nothing else, to look for yourself about the residual evidence and to look at channels like my own where people are talking about their own personal dealings with the Mandela Effect. When the reality around you in your physical existence is changing, that is not something that you can forget or pretend isn't happening, and it certainly isn't something that people want to join in with. So please, do us all a favour and either study it properly and with an open mind, or just don't say anything at all because you don't know what you're talking about. And to the rest of us out there, it is really difficult. It is really difficult dealing with the Mandela Effect, and it's even worse when you've got family members that aren't affected, and then you've got complete strangers disrespecting you. I mean, I've actually seen them where they've made videos about Mandela affected people just to knock them, just to say how mental they are and how they're misremembering. We're not misremembering. We're going through something that is absolutely mind-blowing. And if you're a physicist and you're poo-pooing it, well, shame on you, really. Massively shame on you, because you should be jumping up and down with joy, because this proves all your quantum theories, it proves everything. But no, you're busy making videos about how we're all just misremembering because you know how it all works, or you're some kind of a neurologist and you know how the brain works. And no, you don't, because all of that's gone out the window, because there's something called the Mandela Effect, and it's changed reality. That's the fact of the matter. So if you're going to study it, please study it with an open mind and think about the people that are actually affected, because it isn't just logo changes, it's people's lives. It's affecting people's lives. It affects my life completely every minute of every day. And I'm sick of hearing you so-called experts who aren't affected having so much to say on the subject. Right, I've ranted enough, people. Sorry about that. I just needed to get it out of my system. I've seen too much of it lately. So thank you for listening to my little rant. If you're actually affected, it wasn't really aimed at you. And if you're not affected, please take on board what I'm saying, because, do yourself a favour. Never mind us. Do yourself a favour and actually open your eyes and research it properly. And to all of you, affected or not, I send my love. Till next time, in whatever reality that is.